as a managing director of a company setting up in Austria, you need to become a legalized resident here in Austria. So for Schengen, there are visas, but usually for travel purposes and other purposes. The moment you are going to work here, you are not really getting a visa, you need a red, white, red card. And guess what red, white, red? Why is it called red, white, red card? I'm not going to say the answer, you can find it out yourself. As you get your red, white, red card, you will be considered a resident. So that means you will be able to use the healthcare system. Your family, spouse, and kid can use the education system. And when you get granted the red, white, red card as a startup founder, this will last 2 years until you have to renew it again. So luckily enough for entrepreneurs, there is a special category called the startup founder categories. This is specially designed for you and me, that we would have a successful business somewhere else and now considering to start a business here. So for this category, it's a scoring system. These scores will be based on your age, your education, the work experience you had, your marital status, your business, if it's already backed up by incubator program. You get additional point if you put in the starting capital, which we strongly recommend, but you don't have to. If you satisfied all the other points, if you reach 50, I think then you'll be able to apply. It is very difficult to not meet the point. I think, one thing I missed is that if you're fluent in English, you get additional point. If you can have some certain level of German, you also get additional point. As I said, it's very, very difficult not to get over 50 points. And you can do a self-assessment with the link that we'll provide later. And once you know that you can apply, you could just go ahead and prepare the document. Generally give yourself about 2 months to prepare for document. And here are the list of documents. Not everything, but I think I'll cover the most important ones. You would need your birth certificate. You would need a police certificate from all the countries that you lived in the last, don't hold me to that, but I think it's the last 3 to 5 years. You need to have your university degree. And as a non-English speaker, if English is not your first language, you'll have to do an English test. For my case, I was graduated in New Zealand. I worked in New Zealand for 10 years, but even that, I still have to go and sit an English test to prove the English level. So make sure you allow enough time to get that going too. Also, you would need a business plan, just like what you would normally do for your investors back home. And this business plan is more geared towards showing the Austrian government the technology you guys are doing are innovative, and also whatever you're doing, not just that you will succeed, but this would have some benefit to the Austrian ecosystem, whether it's providing more job opportunities or you're gonna make certain process more efficient. I don't think it's really hard to write, and I think by now you would already have something. It didn't take us long to modify our existing plan. And as I said before, if you're already in a business incubator, get them to write a letter to approve. There is one document that is kind of interesting, and I think is still required when you submit your application, that you need to provide a proof of rental contract, some landlord willing to rent places to you. It's a bit nonsensical making in the process because you're still waiting for your red, white, red to be approved. I mean, obviously you wouldn't be able to confirm a place or pay the bond and deposit, and there's a bit of a funny requirement there. But there's something that we did to avoid that, and obviously throughout the Q&A, feel free to ask us how we get around that. All right, so with all these documents, the one problem is a lot of them, you have to get them translated and apostilled, depending where your home countries are. Some of the documents, if they're not in English, they will need to be translated to English, and some of them need to be translated to German. And you also need to allow time in your home country Some of these have to go through the diplomatic certification or apostille thing. This will generally take about 2 to 3 weeks. For me, it took about 2 to 3 months to actually finally getting all the documents ready to submit. So if you're considering doing this, do the preparation earlier. And we actually had also immigration lawyers to help us to go through the process for the very same reason. A lot of the processes, the documents are all in German, and it's just much easier for us to go through. But out of anything, I think this is something that you could potentially apply yourself without outside help, but definitely having a lawyer, this will be really helpful for the application. So, after the submission, let's talk about the process. And it really depends where your home country is. There are two totally different experiences here. If you are from a country, if you're a citizen, or the passport that you're going to use is from a country that has visa-free to the Schengen area, you're in luck. The process is a lot easier. You basically can submit your application here in Austria, in Vienna, in fact. And once it's approved, you can actually, whether you're in the country or come in the country, you can collect it in Vienna. It's the case for my co-founder, super easy and smooth. But unfortunately, I was applying with my Chinese passport, and that was really difficult. Chinese passport do not have visa-free with Schengen. I was in Vienna with my business purpose visa, trying to get the business start and running, but the only way I can submit my application is to do it at my home country. So I had to fly back, additional plane ticket, do the submission, and come back here to do the business again. And that's not even finished. After the application has approved, even though I'm here legally, even though my red card is here in Vienna, I had to go back to the home countries, apply a special category called Visa D, and wait for that Visa D to be ready, get back to Austria again, then you can collect your red. Again, not very sense-making, but be prepared. This is what you have to face. A few more round trips. Maybe plan your trips around that to know like these are the things that you need to do if you are a foreign national that does not have visa-free to Austria. So back to my story. There's a lot of additional flying. And one thing I haven't mentioned is the starting capital. Remember before we talked about if you put in a starting capital over 50,000, that's when you will get additional point for your application. And it has to be your contribution into the company. So for example, if you're 50% shareholder and you're the managing director, you're required to put in 50,000 into the company. A company starting capital will have to be 100,000 in order to qualify for that requirement. Basically, my injection into the company, including other shareholders, has to be frozen in the company account until the company is formed, until my red is finally approved. Then we could actually use it for the company expenses. Be aware of that and do your cost planning accordingly. And also for me, family reunion is easy. I have a wife and a 2-year-old kid. Once my red is done, it's very easy for them to get their residency. There was a slight delay of 1 and 2 months, but that was the easy part. A lot of you would ask, is there any other way if we don't want to go through the startup founder category? There is, depending on your situation. If you are not going to be a managing director, you can also come in as an employee or coming in as a traditional business owner. So there's other 2 categories. We highly recommend you go with the startup founder category because it's more catered towards entrepreneurs like you and me. But if you have any questions about the 2 other categories, please use your Q&A sessions with us. We'll let you know the things that we know about it. One last thing I just want to mention is after you grant the visas, after 2 years, sorry, not the visas, I'll just say it again. The last thing I want to mention is after you get your red, you will have to renew it in 2 years. And those are the time that they will check 2 criteria. One is that you have to have 2 full-time employees hired by the time of you extend your red, white, red and making it a red, white, red plus. Another one is you either need to have a grant or investment for over 100,000 euro or an annual revenue for 200,000 euro, right? And just a tip, the investment is easier. So, and we'll talk about this. This will go really nicely to our next session about getting fund and investment from the governmental agencies or investors.